Somebody get that poor little kaiju some sushi before he starves. Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are going to be taking a look at one of my favorite theories of Kaiju number 8. That the little guy, the kaiju that crawled down Kafka's mouth and started of all of this, is starving and desperately needs to be fed. Alrighty, now this is based on several things, both artistic and logical from within the series. The very first time we see Kafka, when he's sitting there in the cleaning truck with his monster cleaning buddies, what's he doing? He's eating. He's scarfing down a hamburger, which is amusing in context because that's not something you see typically in a manga. Usually the Japanese are eating rice balls or something more culturally appropriate. But here's Kafka just scarfing down that hamburger, a sign of excess, a sign of eating. Then we get this eating theme again. The first time we see Kaiju number 8 acting under its own volition, that is when Kafka's not controlling it, what does it do? It transforms and then it eats a bird. It sends out that long ropey neck thing, grabs a bird, and eat it. Then, again and again, when we see Kaiju number 8 slip out, when Kafka is learning to control his powers between the time he escapes the hospital and the application arc, when do we see the Kaiju feature slipping out? When Kafka is eating. First, when Kafka is eating there for breakfast, and then, of course, when he gets nervous and starts to lose control. Then, after Kafka gets accepted into the defense force, we see that very humorous scene when they're on the way to fight the giant fungus kaiju. Kafka starts horking in the back of the truck. It seems to be a modern version of a deuce and a half troop transport. But anyway, they're all in the back of the truck, staging to fight that kaiju, and Kafka just starts hurling. When questioned about it, Kafka specifically says, I ate too much. And he claims it's just nervous eating, which kind of sort of makes sense. But in line with everything else, it seems that these impulses that Kafka can't quite control from the little guy all seem to stem around eating, which makes sense, which makes perfect sense, because we know that Matsumoto has a dedication to realistic physics that rivals Dr. Stone's. That other manga, that's all about science, we see backwash from the weapons. We see those big guns have kickback. We see the shields actually disperse particles in exactly the way that actual magnetic fields do. Kafka has to brace and put extra legs down to provide extra points of contact so he doesn't pulverize the ground beneath him when he punches in Kaiju number 8 form. This show has a massive dedication to realistic in physical interactions with the environment around it. And one of the most fundamental rules of science, of physics, are the second law of thermodynamics. Oh, no, that's all things. Anyway, first law of thermodynamics. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. Or more specifically, matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. You can convert matter to energy, and presumably vice versa, though I don't think anybody's ever done it. But you cannot ultimately destroy them. Basically, as this applies in this case, all of that massive amount of energy that we see Kaiju number 8 constantly using has to come from somewhere. So where does it come from? The energy to literally make heel rockets rocket around and punch the heck out of those kaiju, that energy is coming from somewhere. Where? Obviously, living organisms get their energy from the food that they eat. But except for that one bird and the occasional slipping out to snack on Kafka's meals, Kaiju number 8 himself hasn't been eating anything. Kafka's been eating stuff, and then suddenly when Kafka, very tellingly, when Kafka starts using Kaiju number 8's power, he starts losing weight very quickly. He loses a ton of weight between the hospital scene, when he decides to reapply for the defense force, and when he actually gets to the application. And then he starts to lose even more weight between the application arc and when we see him here in chapter 97. And then he starts to lose not just fat, but flesh. We start to see his body converting to kaiju. Now, is that his body actually turning into a kaiju, or is that him putting so much energetic demand on the Kaiju number 8 body that it's having to eat his skin and muscle to provide that energy? So here we have what I believe is the root of Kafka's Kaijuification problem. Kaiju number 8 is hungry. So how do we fix this problem? The most obvious thing to do is to feed Kaiju number 8, because whenever you transfer energy from one state to another, it's incredibly inefficient. It is cheaper to eat plants than meat, because for every 10 pounds of plant that you grow, you get a certain poundage of food. But you have to grow 10 pounds of plant and to grow 1 pound of cow. The cost every time you have to transfer for energy from one organic source to another through eating, you lose some of that energy. So currently, Kafka eating and then transferring that energy to Kaiju number 8 is highly inefficient. And that's probably why he threw up on the truck. Kaiju number 8 says, okay, we're going into battle. You're going to want to transform. I need more energy to prepare for this. And so Kaiju number 8 starts communicating with Kafka saying, eat, eat, eat. We need food. But Kafka was trying to eat as much food as Kaiju number 8 calculated that it needed for the to provide the energy for the battle. But Kafka's human digestive tract cannot consume that many calories that fast. It's just not efficient enough. That's why Kafka overate and then threw up. He was trying to provide the energy for those massive rocket punches, but the double pathway of him eating the food and then transferring that energy to Kaiju number 8 through fat does not work fast enough. So we need to feed the Kaiju number 8 body directly. So what do we feed him? Well, there's this funny thing that they've just recently been discovered in nutrition. Food that satisfies you emotionally is more efficient energetically. That is, for every pound of food you eat, you only absorb so much. The rest you just poop out or pee out. And they did a study where they got a group of women together from 2 different cultures. When they fed the women the food that they were used to from their childhoods, the food from their own culture, they absorbed far more of the nutrients. But when they switched the foods, and so each woman was getting the other woman's cultural food, they absorbed far fewer nutrients. But even if they took this proper cultural food, but then mashed it down to a paste and fed it to them, they absorbed far less. Emotionally enjoying your food is a very critical part of being able to absorb the nutrients. So we have to get Kaiju number 8 to eat his food. If we want to reverse Kafka's Kaijuification, we've got to feed Kaiju number 8 in something that Kaiju number 8 likes. Now, we form our connections to food through our childhood. Now, presuming that Kaiju number 8 doesn't have any personal memories before he started interacting with Kafka, that would be whatever Kafka was eating when Kaiju number 8 first started interacting with him. So the hamburgers and then those bento lunches that we see him eating later on. I've always assumed that it was Reno who was forcing Kafka to eat healthier during this time frame because they were training together. But then that gets to the other thing. Human beings are social eaters, and the only reference for learning that this little guy has, the Kaiju inside of Kafka, is what it's learned through Kafka. So I don't think it's just going to be a matter of getting Kaiju number 8 food directly into his mouth. I also, from the shape of his teeth, and from the scales on his side, strongly suspect that he's a pescatarian, that Kaiju number 8 will be wanting to eat fish more than anything else, just based on, but that's just a physiological determination I made using some rules of thumb of biology. So we need something that Kafka is familiar with and likes, either those bento boxes, maybe those ramen boxes we saw in his room, or the hamburgers. We need something that's compatible with Kaiju number 8's digestive system, fish, maybe sushi, homemade bento sushi. But then there's the emotional connection. Kafka has already begun to reform that emotional connection with the other rookies, with his friends. And remember, when the little guy, when the Kaiju was learning about human interaction, it was with these people. So I think where the story is going to go is we're going to see a food arc between Kafka and the rookies, where the rookies have to learn to accept not just Kafka, but Kaiju number 8, where they're basically going to have to help feed Kaiju number 8. You know, in the way that when bodybuilders are working together, they help fine-tune each other's diets. And I think the military guy who was made a point of being so buff is going to have to get on this, like a protein shake, sushi, what you need. So food, friendship, and fun. That's what I'm looking forward to in future chapters. But before that, we're going to have to go through the Valley of Despair because Kaiju number 8 is going to be squaring up with Kaiju number 9 in a fierce battle to see who manages to bring Mina back with them. So, Kaiju number 8 is going to be burning a lot of energy. A lot of energy that Kafka's human body does not currently have in fat reserves at the moment. There is not an ounce of fat left on our boy. So, Kaiju number 8, if he's going to go all out, is going to have to start eating other parts of Kafka's body. But, what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Is the show going to go into Reno and the other rookies going back and restructuring those meals that Kafka was eating when he was training with them? Is Kafka going to be able to rescue Mina with the energy that he currently has on board? And what do you think Kaiju number 8 is hungry for? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really like those rambly comments I get. Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers. Humans are weird. We took a vote. The second book of Human Absurdity is now available in audiobook format. Everywhere where audiobooks are sold. Barnes & Noble, Google Play, Kobo by Rakuten, and of course, Audible and Amazon. So you can now get a copy of the audiobook format of all 70,000 words of Human Absurdity.